Hey, Chatter Crew, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, welcome. Your presence is very much appreciated. So I'm back with your favorite chatter. I'm sharing my thoughts and observations on this recent episode of BB27. And what I can start off with is that I am not disappointed, right? I see people playing the game of Big Brother, and I like it. All right, so let's get into it. First, I'm going to start with the Accomplice mystery. So let's get into that juicy twist from the Mastermind, right? The eyebrow guy. The moment the house guests found out that there was an accomplice among them, the scramble began. They started listing suspects. They said Will, because he was the first to notice the HOH relic was missing. Ava, because she was having these hush hush conversations all around the house. Keanu, apparently, wherever he was sitting, there was some type of shady comment about where he was sitting in the living room. With Zay, they said his face turned red. I guess that's a reason to be an accomplice. But basically, they were saying he just looked guilty. And then Riley, they cited because of the way he bolted to the bathroom, like his life depended on it. So yeah, all the house guests were going through the list trying to figure out who is the accomplice. Then we had Lauren. She did some actual math and, was thinking logically. And she suggested that the accomplice had to be a girl in order to balance out the house 8-8, right? 8 men, 8 women. After Rachel was added. I mean, her logic was solid and it was sharper than most other house guests. And compared to the others, basing it on the accomplice could be Zay because his cheeks were flushed and Kiana with Riley's acting was poor. I just appreciated Lauren's logic to who the accomplice could be, and come to find out she was correct in terms of it was a woman. And side note, let me just acknowledge and shout out Mickey, because her calling the Mastermind the eyebrow guy, it just it cracks me up. I don't know why it's funny to me, but it just makes me chuckle. All right, anyway, only Riley and Zay were named as accomplices. Like every house guest went into the diary room to name the person they thought was the accomplice, and they got it wrong. So because they got it wrong, all of the 17 house guests are competing now. And if I remember correctly, I believe 11 of them thought Riley was the accomplice and the others thought Zay. But whatever. All right, and then CBS, I like how they did a rewind to reveal who the real accomplice was, and that was Amy. And so I thought that was nicely played. We see Amy, how she activated activated the countdown clock when they came into the house, how she moved I think it was the candlestick holder to get Rachel into the house, right? Unlocking the door to get Rachel in the house, and then her remote control sparking the relic's disappearance. So I found that was well played. And props to the editors for that reveal. It made me appreciate Lauren's strategic mind even more. She stood out in a sea of the mob style decision making, which, if we're honest, that's the peak of Big Brother, right? All right, so first impressions and house guest intros. So in this episode, we saw the house guests move into the classic introductions, right? House guests, they have their glass of wine and then they're sharing their names, their careers, or their full careers, all while sizing each other up. Rachel kicked it off. And let me just say, Jimmy, throughout the whole night, he was throwing shade. At Rachel all night long. His diary room confessions, the casual conversations with people, you name it. He's just not a fan of Rachel. And I just find that ironic, only because if you look online, before we even found out that Jimmy really is not a fan of Rachel, if you look online, they were already comparing Jimmy to Reagan. And if you remember Reagan and Rachel and their infamous fight, it's pretty iconic. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go take a look online. You'll see video of it. But yeah, so it's just coming in uh, a little strong in terms of how Jimmy is just not a fan of Rachel. So he is clearly gunning for her. He cites that it's because she's won the game before, she's played before. He's calling her a threat, and he just wasn't subtle at all. That he just doesn't care for her at all, right? And the other thing I found really interesting tonight was learning that Jimmy is a triplet. And that was a twist I didn't see coming at all. um, Other fun observations. Mickey confusing Dungeon Master with something other than the Dungeons and Dragons had me in tears. Keanu was talking about how he was a dungeon master, and I'm not sure. Well, we all know where her mind went, but it just was so funny. um, and then Will calling his wife his chocolate drop. I think he said it 2 to 3 times already since we've been introduced to him. But I just think that's so sweet. His chocolate drop. He loves his black wife, I tell you. All right. Vince being Vince. And if I must remind you that I said in the last episode on my last review that Vince thinks he's funny, but he's not funny, which makes it funny, right? So his diary room exit tonight when he was screaming for everyone to meet in the living room, I mean, he is just doing too much. People looked alarmed. They were not amused the way he hollered like that. And I'm just telling you, he's going to start rubbing people the wrong way. It's going to be quick. And I look forward to all of that unfolding. You watch what I say. um, Okay, so the have-nots and the have-not room design. So Rachel, Will, Ava, and Zach are the first have-nots of the season. With the have-nots, they're earning safety for the week. Rachel got the short end and she was stuck in the have-not room because of the space issue. They kind of said, "Oh, we can't accommodate you in hotel, Miss Dear. So you and 3 other people." Have to go in the have not room. And she selected the first one, then that person selected the next, and then that one selected the last one. It was like that chain link kind of thing. Um, so Rachel, Will, Ava, and Zach are the first have nots. And can we talk about the room design for a second? The beds were body outlines, right? Like when you go to a crime scene, the bodies are outlined on the floor. It was kind of creepy, but creative. And those outlines are the bed. So kudos to the Big Brother crew. They are really putting in work on this season's set. I am loving it. All right, there's a twist alert, another twist, right? So remember, Zach won that first part of the competition, right? Where he saved Julie. He won $10,000. Well, now that $10,000 is almost like a power, right? So Zach found out he can use his $10,000 to buy his own safety. So if he ends up on the block after the veto ceremony, he can hand the money to the HOH and force the HOH to select a new nominee. It's almost akin to Venmoing the HOH for your safety, you know. And it's almost like a one-sided diamond veto, right? He doesn't get to name a replacement nominee. He just gets to save himself. And then he hands over that $10,000 to the HOH. And if he chooses not to, he just keeps the money. So I think this is a smart twist. The only thing is, I didn't catch how long this power is active. So if anyone did catch that, drop it in the comments and let me know. All right, let's talk about the HOH room reveal and Showergate, right? That wasn't Showergate the thing this evening. All right, Vince's HOH room I really liked it, especially the hidden bathroom entrance. So again, Big Brother, they nailed this design. Kudos to the production crew there. Um, so now let me set the stage for Showergate. Okay, so Vince told everyone, as HOHs normally do, they're like, hey, you can come in the room anytime. You can use the shower, feel free, da 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 da. Now, I'm not 100% sure why people put themselves through this and offer this up, because you'll have someone that will take advantage of it, or that will say, yeah, I want to do it, right? And then you're sitting there salted because you're like, I want to be alone, I want to listen to my music on the headphones, I want to be, so stop offering, any future house guests, stop offering the room to people, right? Do like a few house guests do, in previous seasons, where they just lock the door and keep the key around their neck. um, okay, so he told everyone they can use his HOA shower and use the room. Okay, so cut to Ashley taking a 2-hour shower. No lie. And that rubbed everyone the wrong way. And if we were honest, Ashley didn't just take a shower. She took a spa day. I mean, 2 hours. And you can see Vince getting more and more upset about it, right? Because he's like, I didn't even get to take a shower yet. She was just in there for 2 hours, right? I have to admit, I wasn't feeling the Elle Woods energy from Ashley in my last review, until she clocked this long shower. She was so happy afterwards, and it was just the lack of awareness. And we know that's just not going to fly in the Big Brother house, especially with the mob style decision making, right? Showergate, I tell you. I mean, by the end, I was waiting for the group chant and matching t-shirts. Everybody brought up Ashley when they had their one-on-ones with Vince because of that 2-hour shower. I just and that kind of sparked the first conflict of the season, right? Ashley versus Catherine. And it's like our first taste of conflict. So because of the 2-hour shower, everybody was mentioning it. Ashley confronted Catherine publicly over a passing comment she made about her 2-hour shower. Um, and then you see Catherine cut to, the diary room. She's like, I don't care about the shower, such and such. No, she cared about the shower. She was joining in on the mob mentality. And then she was confronted by Ashley. And now she's kind of pulling back like, I don't care about the shower. Well, yeah, you did. But anyway, this was our first kind of conflict, right? And Ashley didn't like Catherine's, I was going to say Kathleen. She didn't like Catherine's passing comment about the shower and was just trying to confront her on it. It was very awkward. And it definitely marked tension starting to bubble, right? All right, let's talk about alliances. Because I think we saw 4 of them forming tonight. And I'm sure there's more. I can't wait till the live feeds turn on. All right, so first we have Jimmy, Morgan, and Mickey. They're called the Triple Threat. Then we have Rachel and Amy. They're called the Mom Squad. They bond as moms, and that kind of gave them an edge. And then Rachel sharing her BB experience with Amy. I thought that was pretty cool. All right, then we have Vince. He confided in Jimmy about the nominees. And Jimmy's already leveraging every safety angle from his past picks, right? Because when Jimmy won the second part of that competition, the people he selected to play in the HOH, they kind of made an agreement that they wouldn't be put up. They wouldn't put him up, whoever won. So we see Vince and Jimmy, right? And then Vince and Kelly, they made a final 2 deal. Now this was an odd pairing. I didn't see this coming, and it seemed like it was so quick. I'm sure if we had the live feeds, we would have seen this develop a little slower than it appeared to have grown in the 90-minute episode. But nevertheless, Vince and Kelly made a final 2 deal. Kelly then volunteered to go on the block to protect their alliance. And I have to ask, why? Well, why are we doing this, Kelly? She wasn't a target, and it just feels like a rookie move, right? Um, Kelly volunteering to go on the block, to her, it felt strategic, but it's the kind of strategy that looks fine until your face starts graying out on the wall, right? But by then it's too late, and then the reality hits, and then the next thing you know, you're wishing for a battle bag. It's just not smart, right? Stop volunteering yourselves on the block. And plus, you should never feel that safe to put your game at risk like that, especially in this scenario where it just wasn't necessary. Nobody's coming for Kelly. Nobody mentioned Kelly's name. Everybody was on Ashley with the Showergate thing. I mean, it just, and her reasoning was, oh, we can hide, no one will know I'm with you, Vince. What? Just, oh, rookie. Okay. The nomination ceremony, with the have-nots and the safety agreements taking half of the house guests off the table, Vince narrowed down his targets, right? Ashley caught the heat for the infamous shower. Most house guests wanted her nominated. They just needed a reason, right? And Ashley gave them one. Amy going in, talking with Vince during her one-on-one with him, it revealed that Amy and Ashley had a bond. So that made her vulnerable, right? And then Zay, he still is not cleared from suspicion of being the accomplice, right? We know as the audience who the accomplice is, but the house guests aren't. They don't know who the accomplice is. They just know that person's now in the game. So he's not cleared from that suspicion and kind of labeled as a wild card. So the final nominations were Zay, Amy, and Ashley. Vince said Ashley's paranoia, not the 2-hour shower, sealed her fate, but we know the Showergate didn't help, right? He said he sees Zay as a threat, and then Amy as a he sees Zay as a threat and that they hadn't talked much game, and then Amy as a strategic break in that duo with Ashley, right? So honestly, I can't be mad at Vince's nominations. I thought it was a good move in terms of where he's at in the game. All right, so this was a good episode, y'all. I'm recording this before I jump into the live feeds. So if you've been watching, let me know what you thought, right? What's your take on Vince's nominations? What's your take on Showergate? Was Ashley in the wrong? Does she lack self-awareness? Is she giving you Black Elle Woods, that vibe? Let me know. Talk about it in the comments. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, all of which will help my channel grow, so thank you in advance. All right, my name is Danielle. You're listening to Chatter Out Loud. Thank you so much for joining me, and as always, I appreciate your support. And that's all I have. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.